Thanks, Katie. And yeah, no problem on going over. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. 1 second, I'm going to get this going. Okay, great. So yeah, thanks everyone for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit this morning. I'm Kara, and yeah, like Katie said, I'm with the Commission on Criminal and Juvenile Justice, and I'm the program manager for the new Safe at Home program, which is what was created when HB117 was passed. So I'm going to give a little bit of background about the program and its purpose, give some details so that people kind of understand how it works and some of the mechanics of it and who might be in the program, and then talk about the implications for schools. If people have questions, I'm happy to answer them throughout this presentation or at the end. And then also my email address and contact information is included at the end of the presentation if anyone wants to reach out separately later. And if you have any concerns or feedback or anything that I'm not bringing up, I'm very interested. I'm kind of trying to figure out how this program touches on a lot of different areas and state agencies, and I'm not an expert at all of them. So it's helpful for me to have that feedback from you all. So just to give a little information, so HB117 was passed in 2022, and it created this address confidentiality program. And the purpose of these programs is to protect the residential addresses of victims of domestic violence, stalking, human trafficking, and sexual assault from perpetrators who might still pose a safety threat. And so this It touches on all state and local government agencies and will have implications for schools. The program isn't live yet. My hope is that it goes live by the end of this calendar year, but there's kind of a lot of moving pieces. So there's a possibility that'll be delayed, but I'm hoping that the program is available and up and running by December 2023. And then also these programs, these address confidentiality programs they exist in about 40 states already. So we're a little behind on this, but luckily we're doing it now. And the good news about that is a lot of states are already effectively running these, and we have a lot of resources to reach out where we do have questions or concerns. A lot of states have already found solutions to various problems. So the way that these addresses are protected is program participants are provided with an assigned substitute address that's different from their actual residential address. And this assigned substitute address is going to be the same for all program participants, and it's actually the physical address of state mailing services. And then everyone will have an assigned separate apartment number. So it'll appear like it's a regular residential address with an apartment, but it'll actually be a state office building. And then under the law, state and local government entities are required to use the assigned address in all records and for communication. And there are exceptions to this that are kind of required exceptions. An example is voter registration records, because county clerks need to know the actual address where someone lives in order to get them the correct ballot for their precinct. They'll have the actual residential address, but will have kind of a separate new classification that's extra confidential. So these program participant voters won't show up in voter registration records, and candidates who are running won't receive their contact information. So it just kind of keeps it extra protected, even in the cases where those addresses are really needed. And then also program participants can receive mail at the assigned address, and we'll forward it free of charge. And again, there are exceptions to this. We won't forward packages. So, I mean, we just can't be an Amazon processing center basically, but all first class and certified mail will forward free of charge to their actual residential address, so they can use it as their mailing address for all purposes. So the substitute addresses can be used for a lot of things. They can put their substitute address on their driver's license, which is especially important because this law doesn't apply to private business at all. Private business are not required to use the substitute address for anything. But in most cases, if it appears to be an actual residential address that's on your driver's license, then there's no reason that private business or others are going to question that. So it does allow program participants to use it in other interactions as well. Voter registration records, as I said, they're creating this kind of new extra classified, group of voters that won't be included on any voter registration records. They can use the address on court and law enforcement documents, and with state benefits and services. And then with school enrollment and records, which is the important part for us. So to be eligible for the program, also, excuse me, I'm kind of just getting over a cold. A person must be a victim of domestic violence, stalking, human trafficking, or sexual assault, as I mentioned, who fear that they'd be in danger if the perpetrator knew their residential address. An important thing I should mention is this also can be if they've been threatened with any of these things, but it hasn't yet happened. So if someone is in fear of their partner and what they might do if they leave, then they also are eligible for the program. The person must have moved within the previous 90 days or be moving in the next 90 or live in a location that is unknown to the perpetrator. And that the previous 90 days part is important because also under the law, state and local government agencies need to redact their actual residential address from any records created within the 90 days prior to program enrollment. And then they're required to work with a certified application assistant to apply. And the purpose for that is this program isn't meant to be a comprehensive safety plan for victims. This is really meant to be one tool as part of a larger safety plan for people who are in danger. And we'll come up with a process to certify application assistants, and those application assistants will be people working as victim advocates out in the field who are already interacting with victims.
Kara, can I interrupt you and ask a question?
Yeah, definitely.
There's a question in the chat about how, so USBE or LEAs have to report to USBE the district of residence for a student. So the question from these folks is how do they do that? How do they report the district of residence? Is that something you guys have discussed?
Yeah, so that specifically is not. So I appreciate that question. But so a lot of what we're doing for school enrollment, and this is, there's some burden here, but it won't be an overwhelming amount of people. But is schools need to contact us and say, are they in the right place? And we'll say yes or no, and leave it at that, if that makes sense. So you wouldn't have the actual residential address, but would that information, like if they're in the right school district, would that be enough information? Am I answering the question?
I'll be honest, I'm not involved in reporting, so I'm hoping one of you guys that asked the question can speak up and answer. Tell us if that, and Melissa might know too, I'm not sure. Robert says that will probably work.
So yeah, actually, I'll talk about bus routes in a sec, and I'll get through a couple more slides, and then I have a little bit more information. Maybe I can hold off on these, if that's all right.
Yeah, and another thing that occurs to me is that these are really good questions, and I wonder if we could collect these questions and kind of coordinate with the USBE, UTREX folks, the data and statistics folks, and make sure that all of this can be worked out. So I would say keep your questions coming, we can collect them up, and then Kara can use those to coordinate with USBE.
That sounds great. Okay, so participant responsibilities. So a lot of the onus of making this program work is on victims. Unfortunately, not a lot of things happen automatically once someone enrolls in the program. So they're enrolled for 4 years once they apply and are admitted, and they can stay in as long as they want, just need to reapply every 4 years. And program participants will have an authorization card and a letter that says they're program participants. And that the purpose of it is so they can show that to government agencies or show it, for example, to a school. And it'll be a business card with our contact information, their assigned address, their name and information. So that if they show up to register a student in school, they would say, I'm part of this Safe at Home program. And then the person at the school would give us a call and say, this person, are they in the program and are they in the right school? And we will confirm, yes, they're a program participant, they're in the right place, use that assigned address for all records. So the purpose is just keeping these people's addresses out of as many places as possible. Basically, we'll have a secure database that's kept extremely secure, and with their actual contact information. But there are these very slim exceptions, and otherwise, it just shouldn't be in records. It shouldn't be anywhere grandma searchable. Our database isn't searchable through grandma requests. So we're just trying to keep it out of as many places as possible. They have to update their contact information with us if anything changes, which, obviously the program doesn't work if we can't get their mail to them and in general, get in touch with them. So that's important. And then finally, they need to contact government agencies to change their records to the assigned address. So it is on the program participants to advocate for themselves and say, for example, this isn't my real address, but I'm in this program. And if you have questions, you can contact them. And a big part of our job will be continuing to educate and work with various government employees to kind of figure out solutions in some difficult situations. Okay, so now the important part, how schools are impacted. So schools are required to accept the assigned address as the residential address for records and in communication. So any mailed communications should be going to that assigned fake address, and we'll forward it along. And that assigned address is what should be in all records. We can confirm school enrollment eligibility. So that's kind of what our part in that will be. And again, it'll be, we just say, yes, they're in the right place, or nope, they're in the wrong place. And that's the extent of the information we'll provide. Program participation is not confidential, so we can share that, but their contact information, of course, is confidential. And then again, if requested, schools need to redact their residential address from records created within 90 days prior to enrollment. And insofar as bus stops, so again, we have the benefit of many other states already having these programs in place. What a lot of school districts have done is found that if they say, okay, just here's where our bus stops are, which one would you like to use? That's a way that it, again, kind of puts the responsibility on program participants. It gives them the choice to, decide, okay, do they want to have it the closest to their home, or do they want to have it a little bit farther for that kind of extra layer of security? So that's a solution that some folks have found. And then also just especially for school enrollment purposes, so talking with folks in other states, I think some districts are adamant about, okay, we're going to call and confirm they're in the right place. And some districts have felt a little more like, if someone's in the program, then if we see the card, we're going to take their word that they're going to the right place. So it's a little how different schools want to implement it that works for them. But those are kind of the requirements. I'm going to pull up the chat and see. Okay, I'm going to pull up the chat and answer some questions in there, if that's all right. From Robert, are LEAs required to keep the count of 4 years, or will a notification be provided? You would not need to keep the count. That would be on us. So if someone leaves the program, then I suppose it isn't that all state agencies will be notified, but if someone chooses to leave the program, they can share their true address if they'd like. And if we can't get in touch with them, people will be removed from the program. The Utrex errors, I think that's something that we should talk about and how to deal with that. Yeah, and then can I ask, or I guess maybe we should take it offline on the district of residence for students. What do you think, Katie? Should that be a separate conversation, or?
I think that would be great. A lot of the folks on this call are heavily involved in that. Other folks are not. So that does strike me as something that like a smaller group could hammer out.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'll reach out to you and see if we can come up with a group of folks to work on that. Are there any other concerns or questions right now about how this might kind of play out, or where it, could potentially be difficult, or, some foreseeable challenges? That is an excellent question, Stephen, and I don't know the answer to that right now, but I will write that down and give that some thought.
And I'll just verbalize the question for the folks who are watching the recording
Thanks.
later. Stephen asked, if someone moves, thus changing their boundary school, but are still in the program, will the school be notified that they moved? And Kara, sounds like you're gonna take that question.
Yeah.
And Heather, to your question about the Utrex team, yes, I think that's right. I think it would be, I would anticipate that we'd pull in Utrex and data and stats and Kara, and maybe some LEAs to figure that out.
Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, that's kind of the information I have to share. If there aren't other questions or comments or feedback, and then also there's my contact information if anyone wants to get in touch with me offline after this meeting.
Thanks, Kara. Are you okay if we add your contact information to our closing document that we'll go send out to folks?
Yeah, that would be great. Please do. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time. And yeah, we'll talk about some of these things offline, and I'll get back to you with answers and more information when I have it.
Sounds great. Thank you, Kara. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Sorry, I'm trying to stop sharing my screen now. There we go. Thanks.
Is it my turn?
Yes, it's John's turn.
All right.